I wish you another wonderful afternoon with today's guest at the first Worldwide Online Harp Congress, which I created. And today we have very special guests. We have every day very special guests, but today is special guest because she's very much involved in the World Harp Congress. We have ISABELLE Perrin, who is not only a fantastic teacher, fantastic harpist, but she's also the artistic director of the World Harp Congress, which is only one person in the world. And we have a luck that she had time today to accept my invitation, and that she, in between the teaching, she could take out of her time to be with us. So I'm very, very happy. And because we have today only 45 minutes for the interview, I would like to give the word to our wonderful guest, ISABELLE. I'm so happy that you are with us.
Hello, Jana. It's very, very nice to be with you today and to be able to speak all together about our amazing instrument and also about all what you are doing for the harp. So this is really great, and I find that it's always so interesting to see how human beings in special situations like the one we are in now always use so much imagination to work things out, and that's exactly what you are doing, also what we all are trying to do. And I think we learn so much of this situation. We learn things we never would have learned without it. So I always try to see things on the best side and to see how we can turn things positive when they don't seem to be so positive to start with. And definitely you are doing something like this. So I just wanted to say that yes, I am the artistic director of the World Harp Congress, but I work together with a co-artistic director, which is Karen Vaughan from the Royal Academy and former London Symphony Orchestra in London. And also every 3 years, as you wrote, we are having those congresses. Then we work with a local artistic director, who is the artistic director of the team who is organizing the Congress. So it's really a teamwork. It's not something I do on my own, and I don't like to work on my own. I like teamwork. So and I think that is so exciting in what we are doing, is that we work together.
That's absolutely fantastic, and you are a wonderful team, because of course you have to work really hard every 3 years to prepare another Congress. And this year we unfortunately don't have the Congress in Cardiff, which was supposed to be in July, and it's going to be next year. But just tell us something about this, because I know that it's an incredibly difficult time, and it has been a difficult time for the board of that Congress, right?
Yes, well, it's for the whole culture in general, in the whole world. It's a very challenging time, because so many things have to be either cancelled or postponed. So we are very lucky that our Congress is not cancelled, it's just postponed. So at the moment, in the last discussion we had with the World Harp Congress team, the general one, where I'm the artistic director, and the team from Cardiff, where the Congress was supposed or is going to be, we are just trying to actually do some kind of copy-paste of what was going to happen next July and to put it in 2021. The days are slightly different, because we wanted to have the same venues and same facilities, and in July they were already booked. So it will be in August, from the 6th to the 12th. So which means that all people who already have applied and signed in, so they won't have to do anything. So their ticket is going to just move to 2021. So, and hopefully this will be able to do the same for flight and for hotels and everything. So I think that's the way people will lose the less money possible, and just put this on the next year. So so we are waiting now to, of course, to hear from all the artists and performers who were coming this July, to see all their availabilities in 2021. And maybe we will have to make some small adjustments in case someone who was supposed to play in July 2020 is not available in August 2021. But I don't think this will be many people. So more or less the program will stay the same.
That's good news. And also when you were mentioning, that's wonderful that the tickets can be valid for the next year as well. That's really fantastic. What about the membership? Because of course, everybody who applied for being participating at this Congress and paid for the tickets had to also make the membership. So maybe some of them, they paid only for 1 year.
This is still one thing we have to discuss, but usually I don't know what people did, but we are offering a very good deal actually with membership, that it's a 3 years membership. So it's usually really good to do this, because when you pay 3 years, it's more or less like you pay barely a bit more than 2 years. So I don't know how many people have done this. Hopefully many of them, and then for sure for the one who paid already the membership, we are going to see what's going to happen. But a membership is something very important, because it's not only that you are applying or coming to a Congress, but it's also that you get a magazine. So there are a number of things on the website you have access, like you can also get an insurance company to a really discount, very, very big discount if you're a World Harp Congress member. So there are quite a number of things that are good when you are a member. So, and then you have also this feeling of belonging to a big harp community. And we know we are a big family. So that is what is nice about it.
Absolutely. And that's good to know, because of course, I don't think that many people are aware how many chances is involved in this membership. So that's really wonderful. And Isabelle, how does it look with this when it will happen next year with Cardiff? Like it's postponed. Is there going to be the next Congress in 2 years or in 3 years afterwards?
Well, this is, we had before already this whole situation happened, we knew already where would be the next Congress, and it is going to be in St. Petersburg in Russia. So this is also wonderful, because the World Harp Congress never has been to Russia, and we know how much a big harp community and a big tradition of harp there is in Russia. So this is very exciting. Of course, the date was to start with 2023. Now we have to discuss with the local committee and all the people involved in St. Petersburg, because we know how much of a big cultural city is St. Petersburg. So we have to see if it will be possible to move it 1 year also, and then instead of having only 2 years between two Congresses, we keep 3 years, or if it's too complicated and we still have it in 2023. It's still a bit early to know about that. So we take it one step at a time. But what we know is that the next venue is going to be St. Petersburg.
That's also fantastic news, because it has not been published yet, as far as I have not heard it anywhere. So I'm so glad to hear this wonderful news. I know that you were having the interview with Sasha Boldashev a few weeks ago, and I have, of course, you were talking about everything as well. So I know that maybe he will be in charge of the organization.
Well, you know, it's like always in a Harp Congress, there is not one person in charge, but many. And the whole idea and the whole advantage of a World Harp Congress is that you put harpists together. So the whole thing is to how to make things, as we talked in the beginning of this interview, to make a team, because you need everyone. You cannot just have a few of them and exclude the others. So they all have to be together. And there are a lot of very great harpists and great harp teachers in St. Petersburg. So I really hope that they will all participate and all be part of that Congress. And because this is the whole goal of World Harp Congresses, is that to put people together. And my feeling as a harpist always has been that we know how in the general musical world we are a bit isolated, and we are seen like a little bit of those strange musicians with this strange complicated instrument. So I think that the more we stand all together and the more we support each other, and the better it is for us individually, but for us as a harp community, and definitely for the instrument. So I'm sure that it will work out really well in St. Petersburg.
It will be wonderful because it's totally different again from all the other countries which were now in the past. Isabel, have you been to the Congress in Vienna in 1987, or it has not been yet the Congress which you attended?
No, I have not. The first Congress I attended actually was the one in Tacoma. So in 1993, so that's the first one I've been to, and before that I have not been to congresses on 1996. Yes, not 3, but 1996. So that was my first Congress, and you know, in France we, at that time at least, we looked at congresses, World Harp Congresses, like meetings for all ladies, you know, and so there was quite a negative vision of what World Harp Congress could be. And when I went to Tacoma for the first time and I was invited to play there, and I discovered something so amazing, so exciting. You get to meet so many people, you make so many friends, you hear so wonderful musicians and so wonderful harpists, and then you discover many pieces you never heard before, and many different ways of playing the harp, because of course as classical harpists we know one way of playing the harp, but there are so many different ways. So actually after that I was just so convinced, and now I see myself like a very important ambassador for the World Harp Congress, because it has been so wonderful for me to be part of that, and I'm sure, and you also, Jana, you have played there as a focus on youth to begin with, and so many harpists of your generation or the younger one who are wonderful harpists now with wonderful careers started there actually. So it's really, really great.
Absolutely. The focus on youth is really something what should be a goal for the young harpists to apply for, because
Yes.
it's not only the start, but of course it's some kind of really target they can reach, and they can really step from that place already higher. So how does it, sorry, how does it?
No, in the World Harp Congress, one of the most popular concerts are the Focus on Youth concerts.
Indeed.
It's fact, because people they are so interested to go to hear all those young people, those talents, you know, that's upcoming talents, and it's so somehow it's so wonderful to be able to hear a really young harpist, and then a few years later to see him or her again as a star or as a very, very renowned, well-known musician and harpist. So it's really, really wonderful. Yes.
Absolutely. Isabel, but because it's postponed, what about, is there any new chance for the young people to apply still extra for the next year to be put into the program of the World Harp Congress?
Well, at the moment, this of course will be a quite an exceptional year. So because there is an age limit, and of course some of the people who were going to play in July 2020 would have been over age for 2021, but it would be so totally unfair for us to tell them, well, sorry, we put this 1 year later, you cannot play anymore, you are over age. So we cannot do that, and we don't want to do that. So actually all the Focus on Youth harpists who have been selected are going to be. But as for the professional performers, maybe some of them won't be able to come back in 2021. If this is the case, and if there are spots opening up, of course we will have new people.
Because of course, as there is an age limit, some of the people could not apply now, but could apply next year, as the age limit still will be possible for them. So it will be pity if there is a chance, maybe if there is a spot to make a new selection extra for the people for the next year of the Focus on Youth.
Yes, but this we will know only when we get answers from everyone who is coming or not coming, and only from that. So we hope that after the summer, people will send their answers. Are they coming or not? And from there, we will decide on what's next.
So I wish that everything is smooth now, that everything is for the preparation very easy and not so difficult.
I'm thinking so much about not only the Cardiff team, of course, but people in general in the cultural world. And it's not only with theater, it's with music. It's also with theater, with movies, with everything, and that have to stop everything and cancel. Like in France, there are a lot of very big, like there is a festival in Avignon, which is an amazing big theater event, and which is cancelled, and so many people leave from that. So it's really, really sad. And I'm thinking about the Cardiff team, when you prepare, and you get ready for something, and all of a sudden, and you have to get your energy back, because it will happen, but 1 year later. So it's exhausting. So I'm really feeling with them.
Yeah, absolutely, I know. And it's actually at the very last moment what has happened. So it's really, because of course also all the printers and everything has been already probably done, all the layers, and the program maybe has been already printed.
No, because it was fine, good enough that it happened in already by February, beginning of March. We knew that maybe we would have to do something. We were not for sure about what would happen, but we had an idea that it could be a possibility that we would have to move it. So so definitely, usually, programs are never printed before a month or two before, because always there can be last minute changes, and so we don't want to print too early. And then you have done this, Jana, right? You know how much time it is to print a program, how many hours and how many people need to proofread a program to make sure there is as little mistakes as possible. So it's really a huge work.
That's absolutely true. So I'm glad that it has been good time still for not finishing.
Yes. Well, if we are thankful to something, is that we had the time to not only make a decision soon enough, but also that not too many people had booked all the flights and everything, and that we still had the possibility to have it in 2021, that the halls were not totally booked for the whole summer. So that was somehow, because if this would have happened only 2 months or 3 months later, just before the summer, this would have been really even more dramatic. So
absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely. And also some of the ensembles, some of the orchestras, maybe, of course, they will also plan. So to book them in advance, it's much better that you could have booked them already now. So that's so, and thank you so much for all this information. I think that everybody were really looking forward to hear something about this. And also, if you can tell us about even future, is there any already idea who is going to after St. Petersburg? Is there already?
No, there at the moment we are always open, for suggestions and people. So we had a few suggestions from other countries in Europe, but at the moment nothing is decided, and maybe something will come up after Cardiff. Usually it used to be that we would, at one Congress, make the decision where would be the next one at that Congress. And then we found out that 3 years' time was a bit short for the local committee to organize everything. So we decided that we were trying to do it before the Congress. So between 6 and 4 years before. So they would have a lot of time, because as you know, it's involving so many things, and also not to speak about all financially what is involved, and we have to get government support, and then also the rules from one country to another one are so different. Like there are some countries where it is required to be a board member of the World Harp Congress. It's not the requirement of the World Harp Congress itself, but most of the time when it's required, it's because the country is requiring it. So, and also with all the harp manufacturers, there are, with import, export, everything. So there are so many things to that need to be taken care of, so that it needs time. But at the moment, no. So probably by Cardiff, we will start getting bid or from people thinking maybe that would be great to have a World Harp Congress. So.
So there is no rule that once it's in Europe, once it's in Asia, there is no rules that it can.
No. Well, all the first ones started in Europe. Well, the first one, of course, in the Netherlands, and then most of them have been in Europe for the first ones. And then the whole board at that time thought that it would be really nice to take it around the world, because it's called World Harp Congress. So it started with, of course, United States of America, and then we decided, okay, we have been to America, we have been many times to Europe, so we need to do something more east. So this is when we had Australia, and that was wonderful, even though it was really far away for many people, but it was so wonderful to be able to be there also, because Australia is a wonderful country, and there are also many harpists there. And then Asia, so with Hong Kong. So now back to Europe, we had, of course, Canada once. So now we will see and then we will have Russia. So after Russia, it's open, so it could be more or less anywhere.
I remember when I was applying and trying to get the Congress to Prague, I know that there was Australia and Japan competing with Prague at that time. So there is still Japan open, because it has not come to Japan yet. Australia went last time, but not.
Yes. So, but now they are dealing with the Olympic Games, so.
That's very true. Absolutely.
But no, we discussed with them, and I think they are all thinking about it, but it's always a thing. And you know, what is really important also when we organize a Congress is the conveniency of organizing it. So if things are too spread out, so it's really difficult. And so in Japan, that would be wonderful, but then it would have to be where in Japan if they would organize it. And of course, it's only to the local harpist to decide on that, because the most important to work to make a Congress possible is to have the team working together, and then the facilities, you know, to be convenient, to have everything more or less in one place where people can go from one place to another one is what is ideal. So it's not always possible, but and then to have enough instruments, because of course the harp manufacturers, they bring a lot of instruments with them, but that's instrument they want to sell. So it's not to just move around all the time and to have people practice on, and to have people just do their rehearsals on, and eventually they do the concerts, because the manufacturers want, of course, the great performers to play their instruments in front of an audience, that's for sure. But all the rest of it, we need to have local harpists, you know, loaning their instrument, and or schools or orchestras. So it's a really big organization.
I know it very well, and I did not have a team. I really did it by myself alone. So I know absolutely how it was really very big work for everything to arrange.
Yes.
But at that time, 21 years ago, it was still maybe easier with all these restrictions, because now all the restrictions makes it more and more difficult.
Yes. So in one way, there are things that are easier. Like I organized a European Harp Symposium in France in 2004. So it was beginning of internet. So we were thinking already things were a bit easier. That at the time you had to use fax or just normal mail.
I used only fax at that time. It was the fastest. It was no mails at that time at all.
Exactly. So now, of course, everything is much easier, and we can have meetings online and things like this. But at the same time, it's time consuming, and actually we use a lot. Much more time. But you know, because you've been through that, I've been through that somehow also with the symposium, that it's 2 or 3 years of our life which we dedicate to that. and that is really important. So when a team wants to organize a congress, they really have to think about it, because
it's day night all the time. I know that after it finished, I was sleeping 5 days in a row.
Oh, really? Yes. I took also a few days vacation right after that. But I remember sometimes I was going to my desk where I had my computer, and I was sitting there at lunch, 12 o'clock until midnight, and without going away from the computer, just half an hour time for a little bit of dinner, and that was about it. So yes, so it was.
But it's a pleasure, and we do it for our instrument, and we do it with love. So the most.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Isabelle, tell us something about you. How did you start the harp, and how did you come to play the harp?
Well, actually, I started the harp because my mother had an instrument, a harp at home.
Wow.
A very old Erard, because my grandmother played the harp.
Wow.
So I had a grandmother. She was living in Belgium at the time. She was not Belgian herself, but it's I have a lot of different type of bloods in me, because so my grandmother was born in Uruguay. Wow. And her mother was actually from Denmark. And at the time it was a Schleswig-Holstein, so which is now German, but at the time it was Danish. And so she married a Brazilian man who was original from Portugal, like a lot of Brazilian. And they moved to South America. So my grandmother was born in Uruguay. And then she was number 6 of 6 children. And her father, so they had haciendas with horses and things like this. So her father died of a horse accident. So he fell and the horse hit his chest, and so he died. So my great-grandmother found herself as a widow with 6 young children. The youngest was my grandmother, who was 4 or 6 years old. So, and because she was not from South America, so she took all the children to come back to Europe. And then for probably the boat, she took her to Antwerp, Anvers in Belgium, and she settled there. And so when my grandmother grew up there, and that's how she started to play the harp, because she had an older sister who played the harp, but died very, very young. So my grandmother took over, and she was very talented. So she studied with Victor Coeur, who was very famous at the time, and who was playing with à la Monnaie in Brussels, and he wrote a method and everything. But because she was coming from a family where a young woman, a young lady, was not allowed to play in public, you know, so he would hide her in the pit of the opera, so she could play in the pit of the opera. But she was probably a really good harpist, because at the time, you know, everyone knows now about the prize, very famous prize, Reine Elisabeth, the Queen Elizabeth from Belgium, for the violin and the voice and the piano. But at the time of my grandmother, this prize was called Marie Henriette, who was a queen of Belgium, who was really very like a mécène, where she really was supporting arts. And my grandmother actually won the first prize playing the Boieldieu concerto.
Wow.
So, yes.
That's lovely.
So, but the sad part of it was that when she got married, she was not allowed to play anymore. So the harp had to move to the attic, where it stayed for years, until my mother, as a teenager, discovered the harp in the attic and asked permission if she could take the harp in her room. So that harp stayed with her. It was an old English Erard. And so that harp stayed with her all her youth. And when she moved out of her parents, she took the harp with her. So when I grew up as a child, there was a harp there. And my mother never played music. She loved to dance. So she danced a lot. So I did a bit of dance also, but I was not very good and I didn't like it so much. But she wanted me to learn music. So I started with piano with the pianist of the dance class. So, but she was not a very good, neither pianist or teacher, probably, because after just a few months, I wanted to stop to play the piano. So my mother said, okay, but we have a harp. Why don't you try the harp? Okay, I said, okay. You know, I was 9, almost 10 years old. And I said, okay, let's try the harp. And the harp had no strings, just few really old wire strings, all black, you know. So my mother rang to the conservatoire. I was living in Nice at the time. And then she rang to the teacher, who was Annie Fontaine, who was a former student of Pierre Jamet. And so she asked her if she could come and look at the harp, because she wanted me to start the harp. So my teacher, because she became my teacher, came, and so she took a hammer and started to bang on the tuning pikes, you know, because it was so rusted, put strings, and so that's how I started the harp. And as much as I didn't like piano, I loved harp at once. So for almost 3 years, so I started with Annie Fontaine, so with a technique coming from Pierre Jamet and Renier. And then in my third year, she switched it with Elisabeth Fontan. So Annie Fontaine moved to Paris, and Elisabeth Fontan, who was teaching there at the time, moved to Nice and began to be my teacher. So, and I had Elisabeth Fontan as a teacher, who was from the Tournier school. So I got a bit of Jamet school and then a bit of Renier school. And then I started to study at Juilliard with Suzanne. So back to the French school with Renier. So I had a bit of mix of all those different schools. So
wow. Have you had to change the positions, or they let you play the same?
No, I didn't. And my first teacher, actually, she's really the one who gave me the basic of it was my phone who just rang. So yes, so she's really the one who gave me the basic of technique. And then with Madame Fontan was more a teacher where we would work technique in the pieces, but definitely with the Tournier technique, with full sound, with full articulation, with so that was something on top of what I had from my first teacher. And then with Suzanne, I learned different things, and so I think it's really good. And that's the more I evolved as a professional, and the more I think it's so important to be aware of as many possible schools, because every school has wonderful things. And I don't think, actually, I cannot think of one school of the harp world where you have everything. I think you can have a lot from all different schools, and to make it like one thing, because depending the kind of music, the type of music, the style, the composer you play, you need different type of technique. And I at that point, I don't see one school giving really all those different techniques. And one technique I really I read a lot in the Renier method. I think the method of Henriette Renier should be a Bible for all harpists, because she explains so well so many things, and especially in the second volume. And she's speaking so much about all the different type of articulations. But I never worked really on that with my teachers. Maybe they said things to me, but I never could understand really well what was that difference and what we would use it for, until I had to make a recording of Bourdieu on a single action harp. And then I had one harp, it was a copy of original harp. And I had that harp only 2 weeks, including the recording. So when I started to play on that harp, I remember very well. And so I was doing the concerto of Bourdieu and everything. Okay, you don't have so many pedals. But I took the harp, and the first pedal I had to change, I almost threw the harp down, because, you know, we are used to heavy instruments to press a lot with all those pedals and everything. And all of a sudden, the instrument was so much lighter. And so the tension of the string is so different, and the space is very different. So in just one day almost, I had to change my technique. And this is really where I understood what it was to actually have the small articulation. That's the instrument that taught it to me directly, much more than everything I read, because everything I read all of a sudden made sense. So now in Oslo, where I'm teaching, one of the first things I asked the school to buy was a single action harp, an original single action harp, so the student can get the same experience, because it's an amazing experience. So I really advise any harpist who has a possibility to get her hand or his hands on a single action harp to try it, because you learn so much out of the instrument.
It's certainly very interesting.
But Jana, I have to tell you, I don't hear you anymore since the phone rang.
I can see that because I was talking to you and you have not responded. So I realized.
I don't hear you.
I hear you. Maybe let's reverse it again. Maybe just.
I'm going to log off and on again, like we did before.
And I just took the opportunity to think for all the messages. We will certainly answer, but we are very limited with time. So I will certainly ask Isabelle to answer you later. We
I
are
still
on,
don't hear
and
you.
we hear each other. You don't hear me. Still not. It's weird. Wow.
It's very strange.
Very strange, because we hear you. So.
Okay, let me do it one more.
Okay. So I hope that we will have still connection, because I would love still to ask some questions. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to write it now. We have 10 more minutes only. So I hope that we will have a connection now.
I hear you.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Super, great.
I think it's because the phone rang and it's also ringing on the iPad and I had to stop it. So I think something happened. So anyway.
The technology is, of course, only Isabelle, because we have only 10 minutes left. I don't want to spend like your time, because it's very unique. I just want very quickly to ask, because one question concerning the topic we were talking about, would you say quickly what is the difference between Jamet's, between Tournier and between Régnier technique?
Yes, so Régnier and Jamet, you can more or less look at the same, because actually Jamet was very much influenced, even if he was not a student of Régnier, but I know that he was going to all of her concerts, and so he was really in the same line, in the same flow. Tournier was not so much interested, like Jamet and Régnier were very interested about the hand itself, about the position, about the way of doing things, and all those things. When Tournier was not at all interested in that, the only thing he was interested in was the sound, the colors and the sound. So actually for him, it didn't really matter how you would do things, as long as you would get the musical result and the sound result he wanted. So if you can say, Tournier was really more listening to the ears. He was using his ears, and as a composer, he was also, of course, quite different from what Régnier was. And also, both Régnier and Jamet were very much interested in earlier music, like Baroque music. So I think that's why both of them speak so much about this small articulation, which I discovered really on the single action harp, when Tournier was not at all interested by that. So he was really an impressionist composer, really in like Ravel and Debussy, but which is a bit strange, because we know that the French impressionist composers like Ravel and Debussy were very much connected to the Baroque period and very interested in the Baroque period. But Tournier, not so much. The only thing he was interested about was harmonies, sounds, colors.
Thank you so much, Isabelle. Really, we have 5 more minutes, and I want just to ask you, because now after our interview goes the panel discussion, and there is a really panel discussion of the famous harpist, and there is also Fia Berju and Berkout and Vera Dulova and many other people who will speak, and they are not with us, really big icons of the harp. Did you meet any of them? Did you
Yes.
have any memories?
Well, when I was a student of Suzanne MacDonald at Juilliard, I was very lucky that she suggested me to come to the first harp weeks that were happening in the Netherlands. So that was a long, long time ago. It was 1979, and I was very young at the time, but there was already some kind of focus on youth there, where I played with people like Mario Falcao, who is from Portugal and America. And so it was very funny because not long ago, we found back to the program of that time. So of course, Vera Dulova was there and Fia Berkout was there. So I met both of them there. And I got to meet them a few times afterwards. But that was really my first meeting with them at the time. And we owe so much to those ladies. I mean, Fia Berkout, Vera Dulova, and Suzanne MacDonald, who really were the three heads who have started this whole journey we are still riding somehow. So this is really wonderful.
Absolutely. And any memory of any talk, what they told you, maybe those ladies of Vera Dulova and Fia, when they are not with us anymore? Do you have any stories?
Oh, unfortunately, first of all, I'm some kind of person with you know, you find people in this world with amazing memory, telling stories of many things, and for me, I'm not at all that kind of person. So it's always very difficult for me to tell about things that happen. I have sometimes a few where I really like to say things, but unfortunately with them, I didn't meet them enough and long enough. And because I was so young, I was there with my mother. So, and it was a long drive, I remember, from Paris. Not a long drive, but it was a drive because the car at the time were not the same cars as now. And so I remember being with my mother most of the time, who actually came to Prague also. She was with me in Prague when you had the World Harp Congress. So, no, I remember just a few things meeting with them, and also maybe because they were speaking in English, and my English at the time was not the best because I was just arriving as a student at Juilliard, so I didn't have a fluent English at the time like I had later on. So then it's more difficult to remember things when they don't happen in a language you are perfectly speaking and understanding. So.
But just only to meet those ladies was always a very, very big experience.
Yes, of course, you know, all those meetings, all those people you meet when you are young have a deep impact on you, for sure. Whether you remember amazing stories about them or not, the impact is there. That is for sure. The impact, the influence, everything is really very, very important.
This enriched very much, and you are also one of the lady who everybody who meets really love from the first time. So I really thank you, Isabelle. I wish to talk with you all the afternoon, and I know that your time is very limited, but I'm so thankful that you found time for us for this 45 minutes, and that you were with us. And I saw really so many messages there. So of course, as soon as you will have time, please read them, and if there are any questions, be so kind to answer.
With great pleasure, and we speak again after that later today, maybe.
We certainly will. And thank you very much, Isabelle. And I'm sure that everybody will now, after such a wonderful interview, you will enjoy also this panel discussion of the famous, really famous ladies who are unfortunately not with us anymore. But it will be, again, enriching for everybody to listen to them, because they were really very, very unique for all the harp world. So thank you, Isabelle, very much to you.
Thank you to you. Thank you to you, Jana, and thank you for everything you are putting on for all the harpists. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye, dear. Bye-bye.